Oh, unfortunately, I wasn't one of the guys that Charles Manson was calling in the middle of the night on a contraband cell phone, try to solve Helter Skelter. But apparently he was, because there's a lot of people who say he was. But I wasn't that guy. And he wasn't even that guy. I didn't know that guy. But anyway, apparently he was. I was just the guy that wrote a bunch of letters to him and told him everything about my life, not his life, because I didn't know anything about him. In the midst of those letters, he asked me for my telephone number, and he asked me if he could call me. Okay, sure. I didn't even know you could call me from state prison, but sure, no problem. Here's my number. And he would call me, and in the midst of those conversations, he's like, man, I like talking to you. Would you want to come and visit me? Sure. I didn't even know I could come and visit Manson in state prison. I never even thought of that. It was my idea to write Charles Manson. It was his idea to call me, and it was his idea to have me visit him. So now we're sitting in person, face to face, 4 feet away from each other. Can reach across the table and grab him by the beard if I wanted to. What do you talk about then? Ha 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 ha, now that I've got you here, let's solve Helter Skelter. No, that's not what you talk about. Some of the things that we would talk about, apparently nobody else in his life would ever talk to him about them because they never show up in books. It seems like nobody cares about the things that we would talk about. One time I got into a conversation with him about my dad. And because he's like, how did you get along with your dad? I got along with my dad well. Really well. He always wanted me around him. He took me everywhere. He took me to the racetrack with him. My dad is the reason I like racehorses to this day. I don't bet on them, thanks to my dad. But I love racehorses to this day because of my dad. So I didn't see anything abnormal about that situation. It was just a conversation that we got into about that and my dad and how my dad used to take me to the racetrack. And one of the places my dad used to take me to was Waterford Park in West Virginia. And another place he used to take me to was Wheeling Downs in Wheeling on Wheeling Island. Happens to be Charlie Manson worked at Wheeling Downs on Wheeling Island. And that's where Charles Manson's story starts. Right here, today, on Wheeling Island in West Virginia. The story today starts in the stables at this racetrack on Wheeling Island. Charles Manson was now trying to be an honest man. So-called honest man, because some of the people that he would meet at this racetrack weren't making him so honest. He would meet people at the racetrack that would have him stealing cars and allegedly loading the cars with guns, taking them to another state, dropping them off, leaving them there, and coming back in another stolen car to start all over. There was another guy that would come to the track and hang around the stables and talk to Charlie, and they became pretty good friends. He would ask Charlie's advice on who he thought the best horse was running that day. The guy was a gambling man. He loved the horses and he loved to bet. And he kind of took Charlie under his wing a bit because he would take him out to eat. He even took him back home. At that time, Clarence was 35 years old and Charles Manson was about 20. And Clarence had a daughter. He's been taken care of ever since she was 2 years old. Look it up in the census from 1940. It says that Clarence Willis had Rosalie Jean Willis living with him. He was a single parent. Because Clarence thought that good old Charlie would be good for his daughter. So he wanted to introduce them. And he did. And they got along quite well. And before long, Rosalie Jean Willis was pregnant. Before you know it, they were married in this building right here, in front of the Justice of the Peace. They had the reception here, and this was in the Nazarene Church back in McMeechin, in Marshall County, West Virginia. And this is his official certificate that you've probably never seen except for right here. Rosalie Jean Willis was officially Rosalie Jean Manson now. And usually in the books, that's where the story stops. I mean, it's like, well, he was married once to this Rosalie girl, and then what happens? And Rosalie, there was a book written about Rosalie. I don't know if she wrote it, had something to do. I don't know who had to do with it, but she claimed that she did not even make it all the way to Los Angeles with Charles Manson. She claims in the book that, you know, she was pregnant, and by the time they got to Oklahoma, they had some problems. She got out of the car with her luggage and went home. That's not true. How could Manson have talked this girl into coming to Los Angeles in the first place? She was pregnant. He didn't have a job now. He was going to quit his job at the racetrack. You just can't talk a pregnant girl into just, okay, let's go be homeless in Los Angeles. They were coming to Los Angeles for a reason. And nobody ever tells what that reason was. They always stop the story there. Like I said, Rosalie in this book, whoever wrote it, I don't know who wrote it. I'm not saying that she wrote it, but she told somebody close to her in that book that she's home. Not true. So the story always ends pretty much right in the middle of their trip. But why were they actually coming to Los Angeles? They were coming here for a reason. There's been like 150 books written about Manson, and nobody ever tells the story of Manson and Rosalie driving across the United States to Los Angeles. Why were they even headed to Los Angeles? What was they looking for when they got to Los Angeles? Were they headed there on a trip to Disneyland? Because Manson was working at the racetrack. He had just dropped off a carload of guns in Florida, and then he was supposed to take another carload of guns to Florida, and he crashed that car into a telephone pole over in Ohio. Was he scared of something? Was he taking off running? What's the story? Nobody ever tells the story of why. All they care about is Helter Skelter anyway. But that's not what me and Manson would sit and talk about. Took the corner too sharp, smashed right into a telephone pole. Trunk was full of guns, had to get out of there. So I took off. Now I was responsible for that load that didn't make it. So I had to get out of there. So I stole another car. Told the old lady, jump in the car, we're headed to LA. Of course, the old lady's like, I'm pregnant. What are we going to do in LA? We don't have a job. My mom lives there. She'll let us move in. Charlie was telling me the story. He really didn't have much money when they left West Virginia, headed for California. And they was headed here to live with his mom. His mom was already here in California. She already had an apartment. And they were coming to stay with her. And you can verify this information because when Charlie was actually on trial after he got caught with a stolen car in Los Angeles, and he was in front of the judge then, his mom did an interview with the LA Times. So you can look into their database and you can find a conversation that Charles Manson's mom had with the LA Times while she was living here in Los Angeles, and so was Charles Manson. He was coming to live with his mom. Nobody ever tells that story because they want to make his mom sound like she's this. But Charlie was always running for this love for his mother. He loved his mom. He really did. So this form actually proves that book wrong, where she says in there that she got out of the car in Oklahoma City and left Charles Manson and never looked back, because Charles Mills Manson Jr. was born in Los Angeles. Did make it all the way here. They made it to 5803 and a half Harkins Avenue. And if you happen to have the LA Times database where you can look at all their newspapers, and you put that same address in there, you'll find an article that'll pop up. And in that article that pops up with that address in there, you can also add Charles Manson, you can also add Charles Manson's mom, you can add all that information in there to find this article. But there was an I can't find it. I had it, again, something else I had and read already. It don't say much in the article. All it says in the article that basically Charles Manson was already famous. People forget that the kid was famous because of going to Father Flanagan's school. So he was put on the front page of the newspaper in Indiana. So he was already one of these people that they're going to be watching all their life, because this is that kid that's, you know, he was going to be saved. They're just waiting for people to fail is what they're doing. So Charles Manson was already in the news, and he was already famous at that point. Not to the degree that he is now, but then he still had a fame to him. So when Charles Manson got caught for that stolen car here in Los Angeles, the same place that Rosalie listed on her son's birth certificate where she was living at, that's the address where Charles Manson's mother was living at, because the LA Times went to ask him, hey, this kid was in the Father Flanagan school, he's in trouble again. And that might have been the turning point when Rosalie found out that, oh wow, this wasn't the first time that Manson was in trouble. He's been in trouble continuously all his life, because that seemed to be the turning point when Rosalie left. But then again, it could have been another thing, because Manson was also, he went in front of a judge, and there's also another newspaper article that comes out and says all he wants to do is just try to get out and be a good man and have his baby. She was still here, and he was telling the judge, hey, I just want to have this baby. I just want to be a good dad. It didn't help him any, and they sentenced him to prison. When they sentenced him to prison, the next address that his mom would take would be right outside the prison. So his mom was now following him around. Rosalie must not have wanted to follow the mom to the prison, so maybe she left from there. I don't know why she left, but she left from Los Angeles. And how she left from Los Angeles, Manson also told me this. Her dad, Clarence, he knew a truck driver. And he says, get a ride with this truck driver back here to Ohio. So Manson was in jail, and his wife was gone with his kid. Wasn't long after that, she filed for divorce. And Manson would never see her or his kid again. Came close. One time, Junior came close to seeing his dad. And that's what we're going to talk about the next time. Next time I'm going to show you a piece of mail that I actually have from Junior. From him. It's his. It's his. It was his. Now it's mine. But it was his. It was mailed to his house from the FBI. We'll look at that next time. Until then.